morning. Today is Yud Gimel Kislev, and we are on page Reish Chaf Gimel. The line, I think 7 lines from the bottom maybe, that starts Ha'atzmus Mamash, Mציאותו מעצמותו. We are beginning with Chazara questions from Ruchama, Yishar Koach. Number 1.
So what is Ein Sof according to Ramak in terms of Mציאותו and עצמותו?
Let me just give the background for it, and then it will make it easier to follow your questions. That the Rebbe is explaining here the Ramak. By the way, before we go on, I want to make a note for ourselves. We are getting into a deep, and as I said a few times, maybe not enough, that we are learning on the beginner level, and deeper and deeper and deeper discussions. The material is not beginner level. The material of this Maimar, ויולך, is one of the deepest. In fact, I heard from Rabbi Paltiel, that in all Maimarim, there are other Maimarim that the Rebbeim explain, the following that Maimar, that explain and unfold the Maimar. These discussions you only find in this Maimar. And there are no, the Rebbe didn't explain this Maimar, the Friedrich Rebbe didn't, and so on. So it's very unique and deep. So we are doing it on beginner level. And I'm encouraging ourselves to explore deeper and deeper and deeper. And we do what we can this time. But even more importantly, or not less importantly, we are already, and we were already presented with different opinions of the earlier Mekubalim, with the Rameh that comes after the Arizal. We have the earlier Mekubalim, then we have followed by the Ramak, Moshe Cordovero, then we have the Arizal, and then we have the Rameh, Menachem Azaria Mipano. This is the chronologically one after the other. But the Rameh goes with in the beginning of our discussion, the Rameh goes with the early Mekubalim. So we began a discussion which will get deeper and deeper, Bezras Hashem, and Hashem should help us, and the Rebbeim should help us to understand and not to make mistakes. We are going to see different opinions and how this opinion l'chora works, and this opinion l'chora raises a question, and one fixes the other. So we might get a little bit lightheaded in terms of our attitude to the Mekubalim. We should not forget that we are talking about holy people. They didn't just figure out divine subjects. They had divine revelation. So their words, all of them, is emes. These are holy people that we should not take lightly. Even though this discussion is a logical discussion and so on, that prefers this opinion over that opinion because of this reason or that reason. But we are not talking about which Mekubalim are emes and which Mekubalim are not. We are talking about trying to understand them all and trying to figure out what their words meant or what their words mean, rather than distinguishing which one is, God forbid, which one is real, true, which one is not true, which one is we should. No, this is not. We're not at all on that level that we should have a say in the matter at all. So I'm saying it that we should not forget, because as we get into the details of the discussion, it will be easier to forget. The background is that understanding now the opinion of the Ramak, as you asked, what does the Ramak say about which you can apply the term Ein Sof. And what's the answer?
Only Hashem himself. Only
Right.
Ein Sof Hashem. Only him.
Right. Only
No.
Atzmus Mahus. Only Hashem himself you can go Ein Sof. Right. And then the Rebbe went into explaining, really, let's look at what is Ein Sof. What does it mean, Ein Sof? The term Ein Sof. And the Rebbe said, really, generally, it means two things. Before you say that, if you can say Ein Sof about God or anything else, let's first determine what Ein Sof is. Define what Ein Sof is. Okay, so the Rebbe says Ein Sof is two things. One is Ein Sof lispashtuso. When you say Ein Sof, it means there's no end. No end to what? So to the first interpretation of Ein Sof is no end to its manifestation, to its extension. It goes on and on and on and on endlessly. Ein Sof lehispashtus, to the extension, to the manifestation, to the spreading of Ein Sof. So about this, says the Ramak, you can only apply it to Etzem. So we ask, wait a minute, Etzem is not mitpashet? Etzem, how do you say is pashtus in Etzem? How do you say Etzem is mispashet? Etzem can spread, Etzem can manifest. Etzem doesn't spread, Etzem remains in relation to itself. That's the nature of Etzem, something in relation to itself. So the Rebbe says, yes, it's true that practically and practically it doesn't. But where can you apply the truth of the inyan of endless is only in Atzmus. Why? Because what you just said. Because Ein Lo Tchila. He is Kadmon. He has no beginning. And everything else has a beginning. And anything that has a beginning will also have an end. It's not the ultimate endlessness. It's not the ultimate infinity. So only something that is without a beginning is Kadmon, you can define as Ein Sof. In terms of the first definition of Ein Sof lispashtuso. So does it practically mispashet? Not. But only Atzmus could be mitpashet infinitely. Why? Because it has no beginning. And anything and everything else that has a beginning, you cannot define as truly, truly, truly infinite. Because if it's limited on one end, it will be limited on the other too. It's not a true infinity. That's the first thing of what Ein Sof. Ein Sof, we said that's the first thing. Ein Sof is two things. One is Ein Sof lispashtuso. There's no end to its manifestation, no end. So the Ramak says, only in Atzmus, because Atzmus has no beginning, everything else does. Even Or and Sof has a beginning. It always was, let's not make mistake. The way we look at Or and Sof, it always was. But since it has a source, so to speak, of the light, then it has a beginning. In any case, so that's the first of the two definitions of Ein Sof. One is Ein Sof lispashtuso, and the Ramak says that only can be applied to Atzmus because it's Kadmon. And then what's the second Vabesya? The Inyan Ein Sof, which is, we're not talking about this Pashtus, we're talking about Ein Sof itself. What is it? Kadmon, yes, it has to be Kadmon, that we already established. But what is Ein Sof? Kadmon means there's no beginning. What's Ein Sof? The first part that we explained was almost like the behavior of Ein Sof. that the behavior of Ein Sof is going endlessly. That is Shaykh only in Atzmus. Now we say a second thing about Ein Sof. The second thing is Ein Sof is what is it itself? Not that it goes endlessly. What is it? What it is has no description whatsoever. Not a positive, not a negative, not gvul, not bli gvul, nada. It's ultimate pshitus. It's the ultimate plainness, formlessness. And you cannot apply any descriptions, even the most infinite. Chokhmah, the highest Chokhmah, infinite Chokhmah, nada. No descriptions. At the same time, and now we're going back to your questions, at the same time, you cannot negate him from anything or anything of him, because he carries as a possibility everything, which is called Yecholes. There is a possibility. No, he's not a potential, because potential is the beginning of a form in some ways. But as a possibility, everything and anything. As the Rebbe calls it, Noseh et hakol. He bears everything, but is not defined by them. Meile yesh bo hakol, and naturally it has everything. Let's look at your questions. So the first one is, according to the Ramak, what is Ein Sof? Ein Sof is Atzmus. Number two, what terms does Ein Sof refers to? 3, how does it compare to the luminaries, the sun, or the light of a candle? The luminaries, even though they have nitzchius in them, that they have eternity in the sense that they don't diminish, but that is something that is not of their own, that is something that God instilled, the Creator instilled in them. And because of their bitul to Him, they can be nitzchi, but they don't have nitzchius in be'etzem, not defined by them, by being a creator. This we need to discuss more.
Right.
Like, so who creates? What creates? So if he himself creates, so how does it go with the principle of Lo Shanisi? The Mekubalim say, you're right. To me, they would answer me, you're right. God himself is not the creator. You cannot define him by being the creator, and he's way above that, and it's not him that creates, it's Keser. That is Kadmon like him, but it's not him. And therefore, Keser creates, or Ratzon. And we discussed a little bit, according to the Mekubalim, what is Keser. That Keser is Kadmon like that's what they hold, that Keser is Kadmon like H-shem, but you cannot call it Kadmon because it's like the name of a person. H-shem is the cause of the Keser, so to speak, of the Baal HaKeser, the owner of the Keser. And therefore, Keser is not the ultimate Atzmus. But it's not Atzmus, but it has the everlastingness and the Kadmonius, Kadmon ke Kadmus, so like similar to the Kadmon of Atzmus or Mahut itself. And that Keser creates their answer. You said, no, it's God himself, because only God himself can create. That's the Ramak. So how come Lo Shanisi? So the Ramak will say, because the way he creates is not from the Memale. The Memale invests itself and reveals itself and adjusts itself, and that's a shinui. It changes. Like Malchus or Batzilus creates our world, it changes. And it becomes a makor, a source. And what defines a source is what comes out of it. You cannot have a source of Chokhmah if Chokhmah doesn't come out of it. So it will not be called a source if there will be no Chokhmah. So Malchus is not Malchus if it will not create worlds. And therefore Malchus is defined by being a creator. And you said, no, he creates in such a way that doesn't define him. That's what the Ramak says. He creates from Sovev, not from Memale, but from himself, the way it is not adjusted.
To the world.
Yes, and it creates Mimele, not by being invested, but it creates it just once and it comes about. We'll talk about it. That's the Ramak. Will come the Arizal and the Alter Rebbe, and will resolve between the Mekubalim and the Ramak. And will say that really, and the Ramak holds that Keser is one of the spheros. The Mekubalim said, no, Keser is Ein Sof. It's not the sphere, one of the spheros. Comes the Arizal and the Alter Rebbe, and then the Alter Rebbe will continue with the presentation of the Arizal and will say that actually it's Atzmus Umahutz doesn't create directly. It creates, what creates? Or Ein Sof. How can Or Ein Sof create? The Ramak did not make a mistake when he said that only Atzmus and Mahus can create. So how can Or Ein Sof create when it has no beginning? Only something which is Kadmon, we established already, can create. Or Ein Sof is not Kadmon. It has a Ma'or. How can it create? So the Alter Rebbe said that Atzmus Umahus invested itself, including its quality of being Meciuso Me'atzmuso, being Kadmon, in the light. So Atzmus Umahus is invested in the light and invests its quality in the light, and through the light it creates. The light now has the power to create. Why is it? Because we will learn that the Alter Rebbe still has a problem in the Arizal with the Ramak that says that Hashem creates only through Or HaSovev. What's the difference between Or HaSovev and Or HaMemale? What's the difference between Or HaSovev and Or HaMemale is that Or HaMemale is a direct cause, like Ila Va'alul. It's a direct cause. It's a direct source. As we said, Malchus Abatzilus. Or HaSovev is an indirect cause. It's called Siba, not Ilah, not a cause, but Siba, like a reason. An indirect cause. And as such, says the Ramak, Lo Shanisi. Because it's an indirect cause, it's not changed by causing. That's the answer basically of the Ramak. The Arizal and the Alter Rebbe are not satisfied with that. And will say, yes, there is a hashpah b'derech sovev, but it's still a shinui, still a change. Even if it's indirect, the fact that it has a shaychus to what will come out of it, even if it's indirect, because it has a connection, Sovev has a connection to what comes out of it, even if it's indirect connection in the form of a siba, Samech Yud Beis Hey, it's still a shinui. It's a subtler shinui than a ila, than a direct cause, than a source, a direct cause. But it's still a shinui. And for that, we need to integrate the understanding of Atzmus, that Meciuso is Me'atzmuso. And that means that it is Nimsa Bebilti Metzius. That Atzmus Umahus, that God Himself, that the essence exists in a non-existential way. And because of that is not Shanisi. And we will go into that. Okay. Now, Sterna, you wanted to say something? Ooh.
No, no, I don't, I'm not, I don't know enough to say, but I heard that you said that Kesser is also Kadmon. If I heard right,
Kadmon
was the
kekadmuso, that they held that Kesser always was. Just whenever God was, his Ratzon was. So since God always was, Kesser also was, always was. The Ramak disagrees.
But when we talk about Atzmus, when we talk about H-shem, we don't say his Ratzon is there. We say it's above. You say non-existence. You say it's higher, that beyond that we can define. We know Hashem is here, but we don't know we don't know how to say anything. So how could we say that Kesser was there in such a way that, like Kadmusi, like Asmus? It's already a reader.
You can, yeah, well,
Maybe-
this is the
maybe
case
Hu
of
Shmoi.
Or Ein Sof as well. Or Ein Sof always was there.
Yeah, but not in the way that you can define it. Everything was there, you said. The ability for everything is there. But in a positive way, in the way of Pshitus. The moment it comes, you have an Esof that you say, you call it a Kesser. So you're like, this has already a form and shape. How it comes about these levels, the highest of highest, the first one.
So let me ask you a question, just as a marshal. The sun, right? Whenever the sun was there, its light was there, yes or no?
Yes.
Okay. Does it mean that this light of the sun is as infinite as its source
No.
and as kadum as its source?
No.
No. It's kadmon kekadmuso. It was always there, and therefore it is similar to the kadmus of the sun itself. But since it's caused by the sun, it's not as primordial as the sun. Not in time. The Alter Rebbe innovated, Mechadesh, that it's true that Or by itself cannot reflect, or cannot create, right? Because Or has a beginning. Something that is emanated by something else cannot create. Only something that has no beginning can create, right? We established that. So how can Or create? How we say that Or and Sof really create? Or and Sof creates everything. And they create everything, Or and Sof. So how can it be? Because, says the Alter Rebbe, that the Ein Sof invested in self, and its qualities in Or and Sof, in the Or. Because Or is Me'ein Amar, because the Or is reflecting the source itself. And the source is Kadmon, the Or has the quality, in addition to being Or, there's no Metzius of itself, but still, because it is Me'ein Amar, it's identical or reflecting. It also has the kadmonius, the primordiality, therefore the power to create. The Ramak doesn't have, I don't know. I don't know. The Ramak doesn't talk about Or and Sof carrying the thing of Mao, no. He talks about this, that it's God himself creates in a manner of no tfisa, like Or, like the Or is creating versus Shefa, that Or creates in a manner that it doesn't nitpas, it doesn't get caught up. Like the sunlight doesn't get caught up on what it shines. The chiddush of the Alter Rebbe is that the Atzmos of Mahus invested itself in the Or Ein Sof, and bekoach ze Or Ein Sof creates. And the Ramak skips it, and he says, no, Atzmus Mahus creates in a manner of bilti tfisa, is not being caught up, like Sovev. Questions, you remain with questions, how the Ramak resolved it all really in some ways, but okay, we do what we'll learn, the next few Maimarim, we will take it apart, this whole subject. So we're just beginning. What do we mean, number 4? שלילה in terms of גבול and בלי גבול, שלילת החיוב. So I don't want to repeat the whole thing, but Or and Sof, yes, that basically how do you define Ein Sof? The second, you two qualities of two parts of the explaining Ein Sof. One is Ein Sof Lis Pashtuso, and the other base, the base is the what is Ein Sof itself, that he has no descriptions, completely formless. We're talking about Ein Sof itself, and therefore Ein Sof means that it is completely formless, it's completely negated of being finite or infinite, it's beyond both. It's not defined by any of them, and it's negating that Shlilat HaChiyuv, which means it is nothing that you can describe in a positive way, and it is also nothing that you can describe in a negative way, that he is not. You cannot say that he is not, you cannot say that he is anything. That's a real Ein Sof. That's the second base, the second aspect of what Ein Sof is. 5. Describe what we mean by the term Pashut Mushlal Bakol. Pashut. What's Pashut? Description, no quality, no form, no boundaries, no category, no principle. Explain a description of Ein Sof's true existence in terms of Bilti Metzius Nimtza. Okay, that's a good bridge to what we are learning now. The last thing the Rebbe said is Mimele yesh bo hakol, the line that starts Gvul, 7 lines from the bottom, in page Reish Chav Gimel, which is Kuf Samech Ches in the old edition. That's quite in the beginning there, a few lines, like 4 lines, Kuf Samech Ches. So we said that Ein Sof, really, the second aspect of Ein Sof, how the Rebbe teaches us to understand, and based on that the Ramak says that it's only Shayach to Atzmus, is that Ein Sof is not Gvul, not Bilti, not Bli Gvul, not Chiyuv, not what it is, what we think that it could be, or what it could not be, Shlila sa Shlila. וממילא יש בו הכל, and automatically if we say that, naturally it has everything, because it's not negated of anything, it's not limited or defined by anything, so it has everything, נושא הכל, as the Rebbe said before. וכל זה אינו שייך רק בבחינת העצמוס ממש. This, says the Ramak, is only שייך to, and we don't disagree, to עצמוס ממש, שמציאותו מעצמותו, that its existence is of himself, itself. שהוא, which he is הנמצא האמיתי, the true existence. What I would like to do now is first read the text now and translate and explain it very in a glance way, in a scanning way, until the end of the paragraph on the first paragraph on Reish Chav Daled. And then we start learning it according to with Rabbi Gopin and a little bit also with explanation of Rabbi Yoel Alav Shalom. So this, that he is negated of any description and any definition and so on and so forth, you can only apply to Atzmus Mamash, Shemitziuso mi'atzmuso, that it exists of itself, which means nothing caused it or created it, Shehu hanimtza amiti, that it only is the true existence. And what is a true existence? שאינו בבחינת מציאות נמצא. We will learn, and the Rambam also begins, יסוד היסודות ועמוד החוכמוס לידע שיש מצוי ראשון. Rambam is asking, the Rebbe has a beautiful hadran on it, I'm just beginning to learn it, Tafshin Lamed Hey, amazing, explains the Rambam, because he takes it apart, and you the first thing you should know that there is a Matzui Rishon, is the first existence that, which is a source of all the nimtzaim, mishamayim, and the aretz, everything that exists and what in between, everything is coming from him. And if ya'aleh al datcha, if you come up in your mind she'eno matzui, then nothing else could exist. If you translate it literally, it's really, excuse me, it's stupid. It's not ya'aleh. When you say Rambam says ya'aleh al hadas, it means that he goes even al hadas, the highest level of das, or even higher than das. So who, with a normal das, can assume that he is not existing? So it doesn't mean that somebody will assume. So, because you can translate what the Rambam opens his book with, Mishneh Torah, with that if you might think that God doesn't exist, then nothing else could exist. I mean, who would assume such a thing? This wouldn't come into this book. So what is the Rebbe is unpacking it and said, no, nobody aleh al hadat she'eino matzui, that Hashem doesn't exist. The question is, if you think, when the Rambam says that the first thing you have to know, that there is matzui nimtza, that there is an existence that exists, meaning the way we know existence, that means in the way the Rebbe taught in his Maimarim and explained, didn't explain, just said, that for Atzmus to become a Metzius Nimtza, there had to be a lot of tzimtzumim.
Okay.
Because Atzmus is built in Metzius Nimtza. He exists, but not in an existential way. And therefore, the meaning of the Rambam says is that this God that exists non-existentially, first thing he became a Metzius Nimtza, this Matzui Rishon. He made himself the first Matzui, the first existential entity, so to speak. Through a lot of tzimtzumim that the Rebbe doesn't explain. What is Metzius Bilti Nimtza? By the way, and then how do you understand the Rambam? So what is the Rambam saying? Okay, we understand the first thing. That first Hashem had to make himself Metzius Nimtza in order for all other Metzius existences to exist. So what im ya'aleh al hadat she'eino matzui nimtza? If that means, in the context of what we just explained, he said, if you will come upon your das that is eno matzui nimtza, en kol hanimtzaim yicholim limatz. So what does it mean? So that means if God will create the worlds, not by becoming first Matzui Rishon, just by being non-Metzius. Metzius or non-existential existence. Hashem is, but in a non-existential way. If he creates the world from there, the world would have no truth to them.
Right.
There would be no shaykhus to him, not truth to them, and no purpose to them, and therefore no true existence. That justifies Torah, mitzvahs, reward and punishment, all the rest. So it's not so simple, right? So we're deep. All this that we described, says the Rebbe, is only shayach in atzmus, shemetziuso me'atzmuso, that means that he is the true metzius. What we will learn later, Rabbi Gopin will explain it. What does it mean, metzius? We'll talk next time inside. But what does it mean, metzius? Existence is defined by the fact that it is not existing. It exists. It means that versus not existence, not existence. So anything that we call existence is in reference to non-existence. And it's called a yesh. It exists. It's not existing. It exists. That's what really defines metzius. There are all kinds of metzius. There's physical metzius. There's a high, delicate physical metzius. There's physical metzius like a rock, because there's a a physical Metzius like a sound that you cannot even touch or you cannot feel or whatever, you can only hear. There's a physical, there's a spiritual Metzius, there's a mental Metzius, of logical Metzius, of certain theories, and there's a godly Metzius of how bittul to H-shem, all kinds of Metzius. But the Metzius is defined by not being not in existence. So yesh Metzius. Now it's interesting, if you really think about it, really the truth of every Metzius, I would like to put it differently. The nature, the true nature of every Metzius is really not to exist. It's behind everything that exists. Behind everything that exists is really not existing. In order for it to exist, okay, so now that has to change, and now it has to become a yesh. But really, underneath all the existence is really non-existence. By H-shem is not just, Atzmus u'Mahus is not such a thing. He is bilti Metzius nimtza. What does it mean that he is non-existential? One of the ways to understand non-existential is that he is not in relation to anything else but himself. Anything else that exists is in relation to something else, even Or Ein Sof. Why did H-shem have to make a tzimtzum in Or Ein Sof to create world? Why did H-shem have to make a tzimtzum in Or Ein Sof? H-shem will leave Or Ein Sof the way it is. It will burn away the worlds. The worlds cannot contain Or Ein Sof. It will be overwhelmed, the world will be completely battled. Therefore, God had to take away Or Ein Sof, that it should be halal, should be a possibility for worlds that feel themselves separately from the source to exist. Why? Because Or Ein Sof is existential. And as being existential, Or Ein Sof conflicts with worlds. Everything that is existential takes space, one way or another. And therefore, it has an effect on something else, or everything and anything else. It's like when you have a boat going in the lake, it will create waves. Why? Because it is a yesh that it's in existence, and it pushes the water that it goes through, which is also in existence, and then wave by wave by wave, it creates ripple effect. So everything that is existential, which is Metzius nimtza, has a relation with everything and everything, anything or and everything else, and therefore will have an effect. And since Or Ein Sof is Ein Sof, is Or Ein Sof, and it is existential, so it will conflict with finite worlds. So H-shem had to take it away. Really, Chassidus explained that he didn't really literally took it away. He took away the revealed part of it. He hid it, concealed it. Why? Because Or Ein Sof is existential, and worlds are existential. And one existence can conflict with the other. Comes Chassidus, comes the Alter Rebbe, and makes such a chidush to understand that Hamar, I'm so excited, excuse me, that Hamar, his bisgalus, that while H-shem had to conceal and hide Or Ein Sof, the source itself is bisgalus, is revealed, no tzimtzum in the ma'or, in the source. Why? Because it's non-existential. If it's non-existential, if the boat goes through the water, no waves. It's not in relation to anything, only to itself, and therefore it doesn't conflict with anything. Atzmus is right here, in your brain, in your pocket, on your desk, in the air, in your heart, everywhere. Even in your bathroom, excuse me, even in klipos. Doesn't conflict with anything. It's bilti Metzius nimtza. It's not an existential. It is, for sure. There's no truer ism than it. But it's not non-existential. בלתי מציאוס נמצא. To have any other Metzius? No, Hashem had to make himself Matzor Rishon, as the Rambam says. And from him, all the Metzius, all the Nimtzaim came to be. But this is a little bit to understand what is Metzius Nimtza and what is not Metzius Bilti Nimtza, or Nimtza Bilti Metzius.
And this is the real Atzmus. Everything else is light. Atzmus is the real revelation.
Yes. רוצה לומר שהוא נמצא לא בבחינס מציאוס. That means that you can only apply all this to Atzmus that is present or is נמצא, he is, but not בבחינס מציאוס. Not in an existential way. Not in existence, which means in conflict together, to be non-existence. Any Metzius is preceded by 9 Metzius. Except for Atzmus, God himself. בזה דווקא שייך לומר אמיתיס עניין אין סוף כנ"ל. Only in this Atzmus that is מציאוס בלתי נמצא, או נמצא בלתי מציאוס, לא בבחינת מציאוס, only in this is שייך to say the truth of אין סוף, of the subject or the עניין, the principle of Ein Sof, the content of the meaning of Ein Sof. ובזה יומתק, and by this will be also explained and resolved what the Mekubalim had a problem with, שאינו שייך לומר בו אין סוף לפי שאין לתארו. The Mekubalim, Ramak says, Atzmus, God himself is Ein Sof. Ramak said no. The Mekubalim said no. You cannot call him Ein Sof, you cannot call him anything. And Ein Sof is already a definition. You say infinite, it's a definition. Ein Sof. So, and Ramak says no, only him you can call Ein Sof. And they said no, anything else you can call Ein Sof, but not him. He is beyond any descriptions, right? None of them is lying. They're all saying the truth, but how do you resolve what they mean? So the Rebbe explains, the Adrabah. See, this will be our answer to the Mekubalim, the answer of the Ramak to the Mekubalim, and in this the Rebbe agrees with the Ramak. And explains to the Mekubalim that when the Ramak says Ein Sof, it means the Adrabah. On the contrary, you are saying he gives him a definition, and therefore you shouldn't, right? You, the Mekubalim, say, don't say Ein Sof on God because you give him a definition. You can say Ein Sof on Keser, but not on him, say the Mekubalim. The Ramak says, you can only say Ein Sof on him. Keser is a sphera. You cannot say Keser on Ein Sof on the truth of Ein Sof on Keser. Only on God himself. So how do you resolve? They are both Mekubalim, they are holy people. Adrabah, says the Rebbe, Shem Ein Sof Kanal, when the Ramak says Ein Sof, the way we explain the Habes, the second aspect of Ein Sof, the first also, but especially the second aspect of what Ein Sof is, hu inyan shlilas kol התוארים לגמרי, is to negate any descriptions and forms whatsoever, altogether. So when the Mekubalim look at the term Ein Sof, so you define him as infinite. No, says when the Ramak says Ein Sof, says the Rebbe, he means that the truth of Ein Sof, the true Inyan, and especially the second one of Ein Sof, means that he is negated of any descriptions. And that you can only say on Atzmus, that he is above any descriptions, even Bligvul, even infinite, above that as well. Then the Mekubalim could accept that, so to speak. okay? That would resolve. This is the resolution between the Ramak and the Mekubalim in the way they look at it. But this is when you talk about Atzmus. And we will continue next week, Be'ezras Hashem, אבל בבחינת האור, but when it comes to the or, to the light, not Atzmus, but the or from the Ein Sof, בכל מה שנאצל ממנו, and anything that is emanated from Or Ein Sof, אינו שייך לומר בבחינת Ein Sof, בבחינת ומדרגת האמיתית שבזה כנ"ל. When it comes to Or, the Or Ein Sof, the Or itself, and anything that emanated from the Or, the Kav, the Ak, Adam Kadmon, Atzilus, anything, the נאצל ממנו, in not שייך, does not apply to use the term Ein Sof in the true meaning and level of, if you can say level, true meaning of what Ein Sof means. You can only apply to Atzmus, not even to Or. This line says, רק, only, להיות שהאור הוא מעין המאור. The Or is like Or itself, but בזמן שאור הוא מעין המאור, יש בו כוח המאור. It has Atzmus in it. And therefore, it can give you the true existence that is also מציאותו מעצמותו, that is also לא קדמו ההדר, was not preceded by non-existence. One of the core points of human suffering is the feeling that a person is levado. Now that Yivaser Yaakov levado, Yaakov will remain alone. So it has its positive, but it has its negative. The negative is that the result of the tzimtzum, one can feel that they are completely alone, disconnected from anything else that has a comforting truth to it. It does. That, and then, as it says in Bereshis, lo tov heyos ha'adam levado. It's not good, the person being to be levado, to feel that, I'm existential and therefore I'm in conflict with everything and anything else. So I'm really levado. I'm out there on my own. I have to fight my own wars. Nobody cares for me as I care for myself, and nobody really loves me the way they love themselves. And I can go on and on. Nobody can understand me the way I can never be really completely happy and complete. Hasidus heals that. And the fact that the Alter Rebbe comforted that by saying that Hamaor is bisgalus, Or Ein Sof, yes, got concealed from us. So in terms of Giluim, we feel levado, we feel alone. So the Alter Rebbe says, but Atzmus himself, your parent himself is here. His Giluim, you have to work on that. And that is possible. Because Gilui, anything shayach to Gilui, can be revealed, okay, you have to be a keli for it. But Atzmus, always there, unconditionally. No matter what you do, what you are, what mood you are, how you behave, you don't, Atzmus is right there. And somehow showing signs that he really cares about us. Shows enough signs and symptoms that he really cares about us and what we do, what choices we make. It's very comforting to me when I think about it. Takes me out of my levadi. And that we can have such intimate relationship with him, and that we will see him. Our experience will be so intimate that we will be seeing even more truthful seeing than our physical eyes. When they see, there is amtus, the verifying that physical seeing does. This will be even more. So there is what to get up in the morning, but it has to be cognitive, because if not, then levado takes over.
Yeah.
Then we go to the fridge, we look for something sweet.
You
Thank you.
share Hasidus in such a way, honestly. I never heard Hasidus this way. And many times when I learn the Tanya and I feel frustrated, I say, oh, I need to call Hannah. Because you say it in a very, but you say it in such a relatable, in such a way we can relate. And you bring it down, Mamish, in such a way that even, I can't explain, but it's a very special gift Hashem gave you.
Thank you so much. It's very good to hear in the light of what the Rebbe told me in my own private yichidus, the only private yichidus I had with him, which is this Amek Belimud HaChasidus.